Hey party people, welcome back to MVM, and today I'm here with a preview for the 6th round by Final Frontier Games. I have no idea why I just did that. But anyway, this is in the same world as Merchants Cove. If you're familiar with that game, I played it about, I don't know, about two and a half years ago, I think. And in this game, you are in the same world, except you're kind of expanding yourself and trying to make a name for yourself. There are 6 guilds in the game, and you're going to be taking at different types of actions, sort of like in the vein of Merchants Code, but not asymmetric factions, more so like mini games that are going on in the game. And you'll be using action points depending on where you are in your tracks to take actions on those over the course of 3 years, which has 7 rounds in that year. We're going to show you how this game plays, but we're not going to go so in depth that we're here for like 30, 40 minutes. This game could take a while to explain if you go through all the depths and strategies, but I'll try to sprinkle some of those in there. I've even gave myself extra resources to help you out. Just know that this is a prototype. I have some components I have in place of the actual components because some of them were missing in the prototype. It happens to the best of us, but that's what prototypes are, folks. This is a pretty dang on good one anyway. I still got some screen printed stuff. But hopefully this gives you an idea of what's going on and you can make an informed choice. Let's dig into it. Here we go. So what you're looking at here is 6th round. You have your player boards over here, and I'm just going to give you an idea what the game thematically looks like here. You have this console here, and you have these consoles out here. What they're going to do is over the game, you're going to have this favor kind of icon. It's a fork, and it's going to tell you what the main one is of these merchant tiles, and these are mixed up every game. And then you have the secondary, which could be this or that, okay? And as everybody takes their turn, they'll take one turn, and then we'll shift it. And according to who's on top here, that person will be the new first player. Then we'll have this one be the main favorite one, or you can take this one or that one. Okay, that kind of thing like that. So that's kind of the beat of the game. These will, like I said, change from game to game, and there's even things that make it change based on where you are on this track over here. There's a lot of player control interaction that goes on that's very subtle but not destructive. It just, you're pouncing on advantages during the game. Now, taking a look at your player board here, like I said, I've kind of set myself up for some extra moves and things like that, so things have moved along and progressed in the game a little bit. Here you have your different factions and their action points. So you have the action point tracker that's going to say, hey, I have 1, 3, 5, or 8 points here. But also the bottom piece here is going to be like the bottom threshold. So it's saying at the lowest, I would have 3 action points. At the lowest, I'd have 3 action points, things of that nature. And also you have these books here. If you ever get an icon that says you can flip it, you can actually add a bonus to it. Or if you flip it, then you'll move this up to the next tier. Pretty interesting. Now you're going to have down here is where you get scrolls. This comes from over here where the historians are. These will go down here. You'll be able to use ink, which is one of the free actions in the game, to place it on there and get benefits. You'll also be able to use these envoys. The envoys have an arrival spot. You're going to be collecting those, putting them up there in pairs. I'll get to that. And then you have your different guild areas here, and you also have a place where you'll collect envoys too. But we'll talk about how these come about during the game. Other things you need to know is you have these kind of markers that you're going to have. There are ones of each one of those on there. Those are used for set collection to fulfill some of these tokens here, which are like adventure tokens, I believe they're called. They are like in-game victory things. Hopefully that gives you a general gist of what's going on. I should also say you get 5 of these tier tiles. When you get these, you're going to be placing them over here for points for the end game, and I will talk about what that means. All right, let's dig into a turn or two and then just kind of give you a pace of like the tour of the board. Okay, so what we do is we start out here and we look at the biggest one there, the fork, the head of the fork, I'm just going to call it, and that is this purple area. Now their colors match these here, so you can tell which one is which. Okay, so we have over here, we have the historians. It tells us here that we can move one of the historian people here for a translator over here for 1 action point. Now I can look over here in the first part of my turns to see if I have a bonus bonus up here. As you can see, I have bonus tiles up there. If I did, I could use those. Let's say this like 2 reputation. You can move on the council track. You can have all kinds of stuff. You can gain some ambition on the ambition track here. You can move up that. But over here, you're just going to be able to move these monks. You can move them here, you can move them here, you can move them in basically their lane, okay? So that could be a row or the column. You can't take this guy and zip him around. So what you do is let's say I pay, and when you take these actions, you're just going to move your action marker up. Okay, so I move it up to the 3, I slide my stuff back down, and I should say this. You can spend one of these resources. In the beginning of the game, you're only going to have 3. You can get up to 2 of each one of these tokens, and each one of these tokens has 2 colors on them. If I were to spend this token that matches the purple and brown, I could actually move my track up here and get more action points for that turn. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save this because, of course, you can't flip it back over unless you use one of these ink pieces here. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is. It costs 1 to move this guy, let's say, to here. And I'm going to move myself up this track. So I'm purple, I'm going to move up here and go up this reputation track here. What that's going to do is get me closer to getting these envoys, which unlocks benefits and potential other things that I want to do on my turn during the game. The other part, I have my 2 other points. So I spent 1, I got 2 left. I'm going to immediately spend those 2 to get one of these tiles, and I can get any one of these that's adjacent to any one of the tiles that I have here. So I'm going to go with, we're going to go with purple. Yeah, we're going to go with purple. We're going to play 2 here. So what I do is I place this on here, and it tells me I need to pay 2. If you want to place any of these here, you have to be able to pay that amount of action points. The only one I can do is 2 points. Now I just slide this over here. That takes me down to 0, and then we're done. Okay. If that makes sense, you're good to go. You understand this game and how to use the action points. So there you go. That's my turn. I have to replace this. And then boom. So let's just say orange wants to do something different. They don't want to take this favorite action because it's not going to cost them anything extra, but they want to take one of these actions and it's going to cost them extra to do so. So they're going to flip over this blue and red token here, and that's going to allow them to take the action. Now, if they still wanted to boost that, they could as well. But for right now, they're just going to go up that reputation track too, because they do have a bonus tile here. So they're going to move up 1, 2 right here. Okay, whenever they reach to this thing, they're going to get one of these guys here, and they're going to go up here in their arrival area. All right, so now they have 3 action points in this. We're going to slide that over here, and now we're looking at this blue area here. The blue area is where the navigators are, and the navigators are going to try to spread themselves across this land here. I don't know why I don't have tokens here, but I'm going to put them over here, just low key. Okay, and you're going to be spreading bridges out here. Bridges cost 1 point for 1, 2 points for 2 for the second one, and then 3 points for the third one. So for a total of 6 action points, you can put all 3, up to 3 of the bridges out there. And then you have your towers that are worth 2. But what you'll see is as you try to continue this road, you get to these spots here where these little tokens are. You want these because they're going to go into your library and they're going to allow you to score some extra points at the end of the game. But along the way, as you place those bridges, the things that are under them, you're going to get those benefits. So I'm just going to give you a sample of that. I have 3 action points. I'm going to go ahead and do 1 here. 1 here to take one of my bridges, and this is finite, just to do this, all right? And that's going to move me up this track here, and I'll get to that in a second, all right? And then I'm going to spend my other 2, because I had 3. I'm going to spend my other 2. It costs 2 to put a tower down, so I'm going to put a tower down as well. And now I have my tower, but I also get to pick from these 2 pieces here. What they do is they give me some basically icons to address or to collect during the game that I'm going to use for scoring at the end of the game. If you look all the way on the far end over here, you have these. You have this track, and what you're going to do is look of how many you have of that condition. So right now I have blue. So I have, let's say, purple marks and green marks at the end of the game, depending on how many of those I have from here or for a combination of scrolls and whatnot, I will score points, but I have to have enough of them. So let's say, let's just say for this would probably be better for this character, for the gray up here. So I have purple and green. For all those I have, I'll add them up and then I'll divide by that number over there. That'll give me the points. But for right now, I just placed this on top of this here. So I'm going to place this on top of here, and I actually get to go up this track. So I'm going to do that. And then lastly, we said we're going to go up 1 on this track here. So what that does is it allows me to take one of these guys here. And I'm just going to take the orange, no rhyme or reason at this time, and I'll put it on there. Cool. All right, that's the turn. I've taken my turn. Now we're just going to slide this over just like this, 1 turn, and it's going to still go to gray. Gray is going to look at his second turn right here, and they're going to slide, boom, boom, okay? And they're going to go to 3, so they're going to go 1, 2. So 1, back to 0, 2. And what's going to happen is they're going to take one of these envoys here. They're going to take a green, and then we're going to refill. This goes back to 0 as well. And we're going to move that up 1. Now, what does this all mean? All this is going to do is tell us to refill this here. I got 3, 5. Okay, should be 6 there. All I'm going to do is refill it. What that's going to do is continuously fill it. And what we're looking for is, as these arrive, if we get pairs of them, we'll get to flip one of these tokens back over because they don't flip over by themselves, and you want them to amplify your actions. If you were to get 2 opposites here, so let's say I did like that. If I got 2 opposites, I could move up this favor track here. And all that's doing is unlocking more opportunities to get your council, get more opportunities to get guys to your council. One of the things you could potentially do in this game is if you have a council member here, and somebody wanted to take it over, what they would do is just place their council member here when they do get one of those, and they would push you in here. While that will give your opponent a point, it also gives you an opportunity to be first when that action comes up. So this is one of those interaction things that can take place during the game. All right, gray is first though, so we're going to go ahead and look at our blue action token, which, like I said, it gives us 2, so we moved on that. And now I only have 1 action point, but I do have this token here. I could do several things here. We might as well talk about free actions. The free actions are, you can spend ink and place it on here to flip this back over. You could place this on here to get extra reputation points by having different ink markers, or I could take these envoy guys and place them in these slots here, like this player did here, and move up one of those tracks, move my marker up one of those tracks according to the color that I have. I could also flip one of these books if I place one of my markers here according to what color I have. I can also get a ink token according to the color that's there. So that's one of those ways, the ink markers, it's one of those ways that you can pull off some of these things here. You have a lot of options on your turn. So just while I'm babbling, you're like, what is going on? There's a lot of stuff you can actually do on your turn. But I'm going to stay on task. We're going to stick with going here. But I'm going to, let's see, I got green. I'm going to go ahead and take a green action. And I'm only doing this because I want to get through the actions a little bit here. So I'm going to actually take this action here. Green, I'm going to flip that over. Now, the green area, okay, so this is the merchants, I believe. Yeah, the merchants. You're going to have this start out actually in here. Sorry about that. We're going to start that out in here. What's going to happen is you're going to move to one of these spots. And then when you do that, from then on, you're either moving clockwise or you're moving counterclockwise, one spot at a time. But when you take your turn here, and I only have 1 action here, 1 to take, okay? Now, if I had another green, I could spin another green. But what I'm going to do is I only have 1 action point there. What that means is I can only move to 1 spot. And whenever I move to that spot, that's what I'm doing. So this is what's going to go down. I am going to, and things that you can do here, you can flip the token of the color. You could flip one of these for 2 actions, or you can play 3, and then you can get your extra token here as well. and I just don't have enough action points to do so. That kind of stinks. Yeah, I don't. So yeah, that stinks, but I'm going to do it anyway. So we'll take the 1 point and we'll just flip this over. The real strategy behind this is that you can put yourself where this is far enough away where another player could not get to where they want it to go. They have to be on that spot in order to flip that token and take the action for that. So they can't just go, I want to flip my green and purple. They have to move themselves over here one at a time. So it's really strategic on where it's at the beginning of the round, and players can't just do what they want to do. They got to pay to make sure they can do what they want to do. And that's really what goes on here. For sake of time, that is exactly what happens in the merchant's area here. I'm just going to slide this over to here, okay? So now when we go to the builders area here, the builders area is where you're going to be adding houses. So you'll be laying these foundations in these areas here, which are marked off, here piece by piece. I'm going to slide this over just like this. And I'm going to slide this over like that. Okay. I'm going to slide that over like that. And what you have here is a whole bunch of houses and tiles together. So for 2, 3, or 4 action points, you can place one of these tiles. And there's like these little cutouts of where you can place them. Like I can place this here and I can place this here, but I can't place this over these 1 slots here. So you can buy the tiles, buy as many as you need. But once you do, you can also, for 1 or 2 more action points, you can spend and put a house on here. Now the difference between the 1 and the 2 action points is you can activate the row or the column for 1, but if you pay 2 more, you can activate the row and the column where they cross. So you can activate a favor, and you can activate moving one of these tracks up at the same time, depending on what you place. Let's just go ahead and simulate that for let's say gray. Okay, so gray has their turn. They're going to go ahead and flip this token here so they can move this up to 3. That's one of the things you can do to start out your turn. And then they're going to use their 3 action points. They're going to take 2 here to place this on here, and they're going to place their house here. All right, so they're going to place that little thing here. Boom, and it says they get to put something above their purple track, which they already have. So if we were taking a purple turn, they would get that. And then they're going to spend their last 1 to get, this should be filled. They're going to spend their last 1 to take one of their houses and place it on there. Okay. And when they do, they have a choice of either taking the row or the column benefit. I'm going to go ahead and move on this track here. What that does is it moves me down, and then I immediately get to move on this favor track. Each round, this favor track will, or I think it's called Queen's Ambition track, players will move across this, and this will determine something that happens at the end of a year, towards the end of the year. But a couple things are going on here. If you ever get to this spot here, there's these tiles that you need to pay attention to. You have 5 of these. In the multiplayer, there's smaller ones. In a 2-player game, you have these. 1 and 2-player, you have these. And what you're going to do is when you get to one of these spots, you're going to place it. Notice how they kind of combine and they make these little circles. You're going to have access to a 2, 3, 4, and 5 point piece. And what you're doing is you're putting points in between those gaps, and you're going to score those points. Now, the trick is this still for everybody to score, but you're kind of betting on yourself as to how you're going to score and how much you're going to score. So you get initial points for placing that down, but you're also going to get points for if you've completed these during the game. It just determines how many of those points you're going to get. So it's important to pay attention to this for player strategy reasons. This can be really interesting as the game moves on, because now you know what you need to invest in between things. And since it's player created, it's kind of like every game that's going to feel different simply just by the mix of these tiles. So there's something in there for that. If you ever get to the end of this track, you get extra points. I should say at the end of the game here, you're going to get points. If the row is filled, you're going to get more points as well. So if the rows and columns are filled, you're going to get more points. So not just having those on there is important. You definitely want to make sure you're finishing out these rows and columns that you're invested in. This one here is really simple. Brown, it's about scribes. So let's say you have ink in this game. Ink you're going to get for free actions. Ink covers up scrolls that are on your board, and they can only be removed by using this negative action, removal action, which you'll see in some other places during the game. But you can use those and they go back to supply, but they do help you out quite a bit. So I can place something on here and flip this over, something like that. But this is where you take and remove those. Very, very easy action. This is the adventurers area here, this big area here. And like I said, prototype pieces, because this was like their little flame tokens here. And I think I have a couple pictures of the flame tokens, but I don't have them. But they go here. And for each action point you spend, you're going to move one space on here, and you have to continuously move to the higher numbers. It goes all the way to 16. And as you can see, you're going to go through here. And as you go through deeper in here, you're going to get better benefits. But it really starts with getting one of these tokens here. And one of these tokens basically is our in-game scoring. So scoring for having the most of a certain color worker, having the most of these markers at the end of the game. Like this player here, if I have the most green markers at the end of the game, then I'm going to get 2 points. And other players can beat you at it and stop you from getting it. It's just that they're not going to win those 2 points. You just have to make sure you have the most, or you have the most green workers. So I probably want to invest in getting that and getting across that track fast enough to snag one of those. There's even one where you get 3 tokens out of the bag. You get 3 tokens out of the bag, and you get to choose one. But as you get deeper in here, there's going to be some choice as to where you want to do things. You're going to have to spend these little little ink spots here to say, hey, I want to do this. I want to flip over a token that's brown or purple. So I'll flip over the brown and purple token. These are choices that you will have to make. Or you want to flip over you want to move your brown or your brown or your purple marker up on one of these tracks here. Those are choices that you have to make. At the end of a round, depending on how deep you are, you will go back to that spot, and then you'll receive benefits for the lower numbers. That's basically that one. And that is really all of these things that are going on this board. That's everything, okay? There's a lot. I could go a lot deeper, but that's pretty much it. Now, once you've done this 6, okay, you've gone through 6 turns, the last turn before the end of the round is the player who's furthest on this track is going to decide where this is going to go for the last turn of the round. So they may go, all right, let's go here. All right, so we're going to go back to, and let's just say they're going to go somewhere where they probably have a lot of stuff that they want to do. Now, they won't be first player, but they may say, hey, you know what? I got something in blue. I get to go back up this track. I also have a lot of action points. I can spend to go all the way up to 8, so they can spend all the way to go up to 8. They have things that they can do, so they probably want to target that. And they know that other players may not have the best situation going on, like this character here. This player here is all the way down at 1. They'd have to spend a lot to get up there, but they do have these tokens, so they can move up higher. So there's a lot of that, paying attention to what other people are doing in this game to take advantage of that situation. So that's what they would do at the end, towards the end of the round. That's determined. Now, at the end of the year, we're going to have a different version of this, and I should have shown this properly. I forgot. When I turn this, and this would be, let's say, the end of the second year, and you'll know that because I flipped this over, okay? So the one that I chose for the final turn of that year will be flipped over. And that means that I can't choose it again the next round if I was the person that does this. Same thing for this one. So this was what we did in the first year. This is the second year. That way we know when we start this off, we are in our 3rd year because we won't turn another one again. Also, this is very interesting when you get to, let's say, a higher player count where it becomes a lot more crazy, is everybody except for the person that's in that that seat of being the one that's favored, they are going to be able to switch these tiles. Okay, so they can switch tiles. So that would be just me in another game, the other person, right? But if it was 2 or 3 players, they would get an opportunity to switch tiles, and they would also be able to put locks on those tiles so people can't switch them around. And you would go around the table and do that, except for the person that is the favored person. And that all that means is they're furthest on the track. Once that's done, the wheel of favor goes right back to the top here, and then you start over again. Everybody takes a turn, turn this way. Everybody takes a turn, turn it this way. Same thing. You're going to keep doing that until we get to our 3 years. Now, at the end of the game, like I said, you're going to be scoring points basically according to how many of the different colors you have here. You're going to have these tokens as well, whether you're first, second, or third place in those. You're also going to have these scoring conditions that are on here. And then you also have your scoring from having these complete rows and columns and scoring your houses according to that. You'll also be scoring points during the game, basically for placing these tiles, so you'll know that you'll get some points from there as well. But that is typically how you're going to score points. And I forgot to mention that again. How many of these do you actually have, these conditions that you have? You're going to take those and divide it by that number wherever you are. So I can say, hey, if I have, and I'm just going to steal these here for, I'm going to steal these to make sense for this one here. So I have a green and I have a purple. So I have 2 of those. Now I divide it by 2, I get a point for that. So if I had 4, I would get more and more. So you want to make sure you have enough of those conditions. And I even forgot to mention, as you cover these things up, let me put that right there. As you cover these things up, you're going to get those benefits. So right here, I get to move up that navigation thing. If I do here, I get to move on this track right here. So a lot of different things that happen in this game. I just don't want to keep you around forever. All right, so what should you know about 6th round? It's going to be a lot to wrap your head around. I know I've been talking about a lot and showing you a lot at once, but this game actually has a really interesting flow to it. And I will tell you, the fact that you can manipulate these things to your favor so you can even create how the pace of the game will work out for you is a very interesting strategy. Making up how the end game is going to score, very interesting strategy, because it makes people invest in something more, knowing it's going to be worth 2, 3, or 4 points to them. This is a really interesting strategy. Even the tiles that come out and they become available are really important for you to pounce on, and you need to have these guys adjacent to them. There's some really great benefits up here for the navigation part, and you got to pounce on those opportunities as fast as possible. I found that if you completely neglect certain parts of this game, it's not going to work out well for you. So you do need to spread yourself out a little bit, but you also need to make sure you're manipulating some things so that it kind of syncs up with your strategy. And I will tell you that this little cutthroat part of the game where you're taking people and you're pushing them in, that 1 point may seem cool, but at the same time, if you're playing with more than 1 player, you have more players, you're going to make it so you're permanently first. So you're pushing people in there, and then you're like, oh, I got a point. But then you're like, well, I'll be first for the rest of the game because nobody else can push me out of there. So there's a little interesting element to that as well. Lots of things going on. Hopefully I gave you enough information to help you make an informed backing decision, because I cannot tell you what to do with your money. And with that, party people, I hope I didn't take up too much of your time today. Please ask me some questions, or if you have any corrections, just leave them in the comments below. I've been kind of playing around with some of the setup here and showing you different things. So please, if I did make an error, you can go ahead and ask me, and I'll make sure I put it in the notes. All right, party people, you take care. You have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me on MVM. Take care.